Hey guys, welcome back to Dark Souls 2. Now, last time we left off talking about the Hunter's Blackbow and the type of build I could go with for using that, but we're about to move on to meeting Nashandra and also going on to the first boss of Drangleic Castle, which are the two Dragon Riders. Also, apologies for not uploading this sooner. I haven't been able to upload for the last week due to personal reasons, and I've also been setting up my new audio interface as well, which you may notice because the sound of my microphone is a lot clearer now, and there's not so much background noise and static in the microphone. The one I was using before was a USB microphone, but now I've moved on to a USB interface with a cardioid microphone that uses an XLR cable, and the sound completely is just a lot crisper and a lot nicer to listen to. So anyway, just get that out of the way. The Dragon Riders are basically a pushover. They come at you both at once. Well, technically, one of them uses a bow, the other is just a generic Dragon Rider, the same type that we fought in Hyde's Tower of Flame. And while at first the fight with them may seem intimidating, in actuality, it is so simple. It's one of the easiest boss fights in this entire game, and I'm also just looking at these statues here, because these are old knights, the same ones that we saw in Hyde's Tower of Flame, and I was just wondering to myself why the hell they would be in Drangleic Castle as well. Anyway, this is Nashandra.
You have fought admirably on your journey, cursed undead. I am Nashandra, Queen of Drangleic. A true monarch carries the weight of their souls. The last king of this land, King Vendrick, as he was called. He found the strength to rule his people, and when the undead were born, cursed, he found more strength to face them. But in the end, he never took the true throne. Visit Vendrick. We have no need for two rulers.
So you can already get a sense right there of just how diabolical Nashandra already is, and that's not even her true form. So just imagine that like nice little lady, or big lady rather, and just imagine her as this abyssal demon that will try to kill you at the end of your journey. That is pretty much who she is in a nutshell. And we've already gone over the lore of the Dragon Riders, so I'm just going to stick with what Nashandra was saying for now, even when we get into the Dragon Rider fight. So she says that you should go and see Vendrick and pretty much do away with him and defeat him because this kingdom has no need for two rulers. So she's essentially pitting you against Vendrick, and we find out later that Vendrick has already hollowed very long ago, so it would be a very easy task to accomplish. But basically what she is spurring us on here to do is to kill Vendrick so we can get to his ring and therefore lead her to the Throne of Want. And that is her main goal and her main aspiration for the story of Dark Souls 2. And it's not really evident in her words when she talks to you just before, but her words will make sense at the end of the game, and so will just how she acts in general around you as the player. It all seems very coy and very, low-key right now, but in the end, we get to see her true colors, and more than anything, we get to see how her master plan plays out. Two other things that she can confirm for us to do with the lore are that not only are people born with the curse of undeath, and also that Vendrick never took the throne, as I stated before, but I'll get back to that thought in a second.
Oh, well met, friend. Good to see you well. Yes, very good indeed. I journeyed from the distant east to perfect my swordsmanship. And legend has it that powerful beings slumber in this land. This sword has been in my family for generations, and only a real man can wield it true. I may face any man or beast, but none shall be a match for my sword. This land is a right mess, eh? King's gone. The people have a mad glint in their eyes. The land itself is overrun by terrible beasts. No better place to test my sword, eh? This land is the right mate. King, the land, no better.
Alright, so some interesting dialogue there from Ben Hart about his backstory. He says he traveled from the distant east to perfect his swordsmanship. Now, the land he came from is known as Jugo, which we know is a desert, or rather, it's a place that is in a desert, or a desert land. And we know that from many of the other people that we've met along the way that have referenced Jugo as being that. And he also once again talks about his legendary Moonlight Blade and how it has slayed many number of enemies that he has come across. But, well, we know that one to be fake, or at least we will in a short time when, well, I don't know if I'll get it in this playthrough, but if I do, I'll probably get it off camera, and I'll bonfire aesthetic the bonfire in Brightstone Cove, and then go fight Freya again so I can get the Moonlight Blade, the real one, so I can show you guys the description of it and prove to you that Ben Hart's Moonlight Blade is actually a fake. And I know that you could just search this up on Google and read the description yourself, but I'd rather just get it on camera so I can just do the parts that I would do in a New Game Plus playthrough in this playthrough, so we just have it all in one go, and nothing is like separated into two different playthroughs. Anyway, what I'm doing here is I'm going through all these doors and fighting all these ruined sentinels to get the items that are inside. Most of them are quite bad, like some of them are empty, some of them just have life gems, but two of the doors, or rather three, have interesting items. One of them has a Mastodon Greatsword. The one I'm opening right now leads down to the third encounter with Darkdive at Grandal and a part of the Abyss Covenant, and then, oh, and also the Farum armor at the bottom as well. And then the other door has a Royal Soldier's Ring, either +1 or +2 in it. I can't quite remember, but we'll see shortly. And those are basically the only items in this room that are of value. And your penance for opening these doors with these not-so-magical items, in most of them at least, is fighting a bunch of ruined sentinels. And I still don't like this method of, like, finding rare items in this location. Like, I don't think they needed ruined sentinels in every single door. Maybe, like, as a troll in the ones that didn't have anything in them, like you opened a door and there was nothing in there but a ruined sentinel, and now you know that. But there is a ruined sentinel in every single door. And I think, like, having the player open a door that has a piece of treasure in it should be rewarded rather than punished with a ruined sentinel, because that just shows that the player is doing what they're supposed to be doing in this area, and it's giving them positive reinforcement for that. But instead, what they do here is they basically punish and reward the player for opening the doors. They give you a ruined sentinel to fight, but then they also give you an item on the off chance that there is actually an item in there. Sometimes there may not be, and you just have to fight the ruined sentinel all by itself. So for me, this is kind of a grey area in terms of game design. It's almost like damned if you do, damned if you don't. And that's mainly just because they're both rewarding the player and punishing them for opening a door that was kind of hard to open in the first place. And, I mean, you can see that as a bad thing or you can see that as a good thing, but when it really boils down to it, it's actually both of them at the same time. Or at least that's how I see it anyway. Like in this room we get this item, but it is just a Pharaoh's Lockstone, and you had to defeat a ruined sentinel just to get that, so the disappointment is real. And then in this room there is nothing even in it, not even a secret wall, so once again the disappointment is real. And those things happen in a lot more rooms than just one in this area. Only 3 of these doors, as I said, lead to something worthy of your time. The reason I'm opening every single one is to prove that point, basically, and also just to kill all these ruined sentinels, because I wasn't sure if they respawned in New Game. I'm pretty sure they respawn in New Game Plus, but I'm not sure if they did in New Game, so I was just ridding the area of them, just in case they didn't respawn, so I could get the items, and then just be done with this area. And another thing that I also noticed was that they put stone soldiers in the middle of the room as well, instead of just the outsides where the doors are. And I think this is just to intimidate the player at first when they enter the room, because they're expecting those soldiers in the middle to come alive as well, but I think only 2 of them do, which is good, because all the ones around the outside are active, or at least I think they are. I don't think all of them are active, I think every second one is active actually. And also, if you've been following my Metal Gear playthrough as well, the only reason that I noticed this guy's name was because of that playthrough that I'm doing. Otherwise, it would have just gone straight over my head. And as you can see, his name is Shelashashka, which is Ocelot's code name sort of thing in Metal Gear. And at the time of recording this, I had no idea who it was, so I was just trying to kill the dude. But yeah, I summoned Bashful Ray because, well, I don't know, it's kind of not cool to attack people when they're already fighting enemies. I mean, it's an invasion already, so you're already invading me. Might as well just wait for me to kill the enemy that I'm already fighting. So I just summoned Bashful Ray to take him off me for a second while I killed this Ruin Sentinel. And then this guy also had the Jester Thomas build going for him, so on top of that, he also has a pretty strong build. And attacking me at the same time I'm attacking an enemy is kind of a shitty thing to do, honestly. And even though summoning during an invasion isn't cool either, Bashful Ray just ends up destroying this dude. And yeah, Bashful Ray, I don't give him enough credit. I don't summon him enough. Well, I don't really summon anyone during this playthrough except for Benhart and Lucatiel, so yeah, this is the first time I've ever actually summoned him. It's just too bad that it had to be during an invasion. Anyway, I'm just gonna fast forward through the rest of this fight because, well, you didn't come here to watch PvP, I'm guessing. So, yeah, we're gonna go down into the pit below Drain Lake Castle, and, well, there's a Dark Lurker there now for some reason. And, I don't know, this is one of the problems with Dark Souls 2's continuity. I can't explain how it got there, even though I am meant to be doing an in-depth analysis of this game. I'm not even gonna try to explain how a Dark Lurker got down in here, because it makes no sense. Literally. It makes no sense. They don't explain. Alright, maybe it would work if they explained to us how Dark Lurkers are, like how they're made or how they come about. Whether it's a human that evolves into someone after being exposed to the dark for so long, or something like that. But no, they don't explain it. So, yeah, we're just gonna light this bonfire here and then talk to Dark Diver Grandal again in this room.
Young undead, don't let this curse weigh upon you. We meet a second time. Perhaps you will yet traverse the dark. Young undead, if you truly seek the dark, then we will surely meet again. May we meet again, somewhere. Sometime.
I gotta say, there are still a few things about Dark Souls 2 that I wonder about. For one, how is Dark Diver Grandal in 3 places at once? And 2, is Benhart immortal? Because, well, we'll see later on, he is in the Giant's memory. Like, he was alive and around in the time when the Giants first invaded Drain Lake. And he hasn't aged a day. And apparently he said he has only just recently come from his land of Jugo to hone his swordsmanship in this land, but he's been here since the Giants first invaded. So, I don't know, I'll have to wrap my head around that somehow, and maybe I'll come up with an explanation, but I highly doubt it. Benhart is probably either one of 2 things, a ghost or immortal. So, I don't know, take what you will from that. I don't know how to explain him being in Drain Lake otherwise, because he would either have to be dead or undead, but then again, they do say time is convoluted in these games, and maybe, I don't know, maybe Jugo is outside of the space known as Drain Lake, and he just got plopped in here somehow, and time has reverted him in some way, or affected him in some way, and that is where he stands now, but otherwise I don't really know how to explain it. The time is convoluted in Lordran and Drain Lake thing is really just a big loophole for explaining things, and sometimes I wish they would just buckle down on their lore a little bit and explain it in just a bit more detail, because, I mean, these games, yeah, they're known for their scarcity in the lore and all that stuff, but it is not done nearly as well in Dark Souls 2 as in Dark Souls 1, and that is overly apparent to pretty much anyone that plays both these games. And also, I don't really think Benhart could be a ghost, because that there was a ghost, and they're pretty rare. And I also don't think Benhart is some rare species of ghost that still looks like their corporeal form. So I think we can cross ghost off the list, and I'll just go with immortal for now. I mean, I suppose the only other explanation could be that Drain Lake, or whatever, like, space-time continuum this fucking thing is, has him trapped in a sort of Groundhog Day. So he constantly just goes around Drain Lake saying that he has come from the east and he wants to help these fellow travelers and hone his swordsmanship. And he's kind of just stuck in that, and it just repeats over and over and over again. And that's what we're seeing right now with his quest line. And that theory would probably make the most sense to me out of any of them because of the fetish Dark Souls has with cycles and repeating things and repeating the cycles in general. And yeah, it would just make the most sense to me in that way. So quickly before I forget about it, here we are also seeing that there are Old Knight weapons in the bottom of Drain Lake Castle, or not really the bottom, we're about midway up, but it's not the top by far. The top is way, way up there. But yeah, so this is some armory, and we're seeing that there are Old Knight weapons in this armory. So I think we can deduce from that that this is either where the Old Knights came from, or Old Knights were also shared with King Vendrick as soldiers, because as we know, Vendrick collected a lot of soldiers from all over Drain Lake to put in his army, and that could be what's happening. But they could have also originated here, and that's something to think about. And this unique enemy here is the Executioner's Chariot, and we haven't gone to fight the actual boss that this unique monster comes from yet, so it's probably unfamiliar to you if you haven't played the game. And I mean, I could have gone to fight that boss first before coming here, because it would have given an explanation to what this thing is, but basically this is a monster that the Executioner rides in the Undead Purgatory to round up all the undead and basically punish them in the jails there for all of eternity. And of course, the one who gave him those orders to do that was the Old Iron King. And I think we've touched on that lore before, but I'll go into it in more depth when we actually go and do that little side boss, so I won't talk about it too much for now. For now, I'll just fast forward through killing this thing. Or actually, no, it's already dead. What am I talking about? So we'll go upstairs to see that there's not only a mimic up there, but also some Old Knights. And finding these enemies here as actual living things further reinforces the fact that we've been finding Old Knight weapons and seeing Old Knight imagery all around the castle. So I'm starting to think that they weren't just shared with King Vendrick, but I'm really starting to think that they were created in Drain Lake, or Drain Lake Castle rather. And I mean, like, their imagery is everywhere throughout this castle, so it can't just be a coincidence. I mean, I know that Dark Souls 2 has a lot of continuity problems, but these Old Knights were not here in the original Dark Souls 2. They have been put in Scholar of the First Sin, so they must have some relevance to Drain Lake Castle. And, I mean, it's really apparent. It really is. And there has to be some reason for it. And if they didn't originate here, maybe they just played a big part in Vendrick's war against the Giants. Perhaps the Old Knights were lent to him as a stronger arm for defending not only his castle, but maybe the first line of defense against the Giants as well. So yeah, I don't really know how to explain it. They don't really give you much in the way of lore for the Old Knights, so we'll just try and put it out of your mind for now, because there's not much I can really do to try and explain the relevance and backstory for the Old Knights. And I mean, you saw me try to in one of the earlier episodes in Hyde's Tower of Flame. It's just really, really difficult to think up theories and backstories for the Old Knights when so little is given to you in the game itself. And this is also a really good pyromancy right here as well. This is the Firestorm Pyromancy. Basically just a bunch of pillars of fire shoot up from the ground against your enemy. And I mean, it's not bad in the way of pyromancy. Like, it's not one of the top tier ones. Like, there are better versions of Firestorm, like Chaos Firestorm and stuff like that. Or I think it's actually Fire Tempest? I can't quite remember. I think it's in the Iron Keep, and that's where you get it from. But it takes a long time to cast, and it's like mid-tier pyromancy, I guess. I'd say it's probably better used for PvE rather than PvP. And also, there have been a few changes made to this area as well. In the original game, there used to be a Mammoth Knight that would be behind me right now, and he would attack you after coming out into this first area. And then above where I'm shooting right now, there used to be 4 Alon Knights that would shoot you with great bows, as this one is doing to me right now as well. But there is one new thing in this area, and that is to the back of me, which I might turn around if I'm lucky. No, oh, you saw it for a second. There is a gargoyle as a sub-boss on this roof now, and that is one cool thing that they have added to this area. Like, I wouldn't say it's an extremely amazing addition, but it is definitely something that is pretty cool. Like, it's fun to fight, and it's interesting that they've put it here. I don't really know why it would be here lore-wise, because the gargoyles are meant to be in Belfry Luna, but I don't know, it's fun to fight nevertheless, and it's a pretty cool area to fight it in as well. The one thing that I don't like about this is that they should have removed the Dragon Riders as a boss, and instead made the gargoyles a boss in this area. And, well, that would have been way cooler rather than 2 Dragon Riders as a boss, because, well, they're no longer a unique enemy after you kill 3 of them, and having the gargoyles here as a unique enemy and a boss would really have spiced up the area a bit. Having the gargoyles in Belfry Luna makes about as much sense to me as it would having them here, and I think this is a much cooler place to fight them as well, because basically the ones they have at Belfry Luna are just a carbon copy of the ones from Dark Souls 1. It takes place on a roof as well, just like Dark Souls 1, and there are multiple of them. But if they just had one strong Belfry gargoyle up here, well, it wouldn't be called a Belfry gargoyle, I suppose, but if they just had one strong gargoyle boss up here to kind of pay homage to the ones in Dark Souls 1, that would have been a lot more subtle, and it would have been a lot cooler than having to fight 6 of them at Belfry Luna. I don't really like that boss all that much, if you can tell, and in my opinion, that would just have been a cooler boss fight to have in Dragonleap Castle, rather than just repeating a boss that we have already seen in Hyde's Tower of Flame, but doubling their number. Anyway, we're almost at the main boss for Dragonleap Castle. We're about 75% of the way through this level. Actually, no, I'll say about 90%. We're almost at the end of Dragonleap Castle, which means that soon we will be facing the Looking Glass Knight. And there's a little fun fact for you. If you played the beta of Dark Souls 2, you will remember that the Looking Glass Knight was not always called that. In the beta, it was called the Mirror Knight. I know, not much of a change, right? And Mirror Knight, in my opinion, sounds a bit more badass, so I don't really know why they changed it. It doesn't really have any lore significance, like his name, in the way of the game world itself, so changing it from Mirror Knight to Looking Glass Knight really has no relevance whatsoever. But we'll get onto the lore surrounding him in just a second. For now, we have to go up to the very tip top of Dragonleap Castle and retrieve the key to King's Passage. There's also something very interesting up here as well that kind of shocked me when I first played through this game. We find what is known as the Embedded, and the Embedded is a seal to a cage that has a Malfinito within it. This goes into the lore surrounding the Shrine of Amana, and also the lore surrounding why Nashandra cannot access the Throne of Want by herself. So I might save that for the Shrine of Amana after this level, and explain it then, because there is a lot more lore to cover in that area than there is right here, and I'd rather just save that so we can talk as much as we want about the Looking Glass Knight and his origins. But I will just do a quick coverage of what the Malfinito are and what the Embedded are for those that are dying to hear. The Embedded is basically just a lock on this cage to the Malfinito that requires something called the Key to the Embedded. By my guess, the Embedded itself is an undead that wears a face mask or something along those lines. It's a monster that requires the Key to the Embedded to get to the cage and open the cage to free the Malfinito. The Malfinito are a race of kind of like human subspecies from Nito. They're descendants of Nito in some way that sing to keep the darkness at bay. And this is expanded upon more by the Malfinito in the Shrine of Amana, so we'll go into it then. But in a nutshell, that is the explanation for both the Malfinito and the Embedded. The reason that there is a Malfinito up in Dragonleap Castle's roof, or in the peak of the highest tower, is because since they sing to keep the dark at bay, and that means having a Malfinito at the tippy top of Dragonleap Castle, where the key to the King's Passage lies, stops Nashandra from ever going up there and accessing that chest to advance her way towards the Throne of Want. And I'm just looking at this mural here because I remember reading somewhere a while ago on Reddit maybe, or a video that I watched, that mural looks very similar to the mural in Dark Souls 1 depicting the Lord Vessel below Firelink Shrine. And I couldn't remember what video it was or what Reddit post it was, but yeah, it was depicting the fact that the cross guard on the sword of that statue may in fact have been an homage or a reference to the Firelink Shrine picture and mural in Dark Souls 1. Personally, I don't put that much stock in that theory and idea, but I haven't really thought about it that much, to be honest. Anyway, these enemies here are just an extension of the stone soldiers from earlier. I like to just call them Minotaur stone soldiers or Minotaur knights, because that's pretty much what they are, even though they have a horse's head rather than a Minotaur's head. But they aren't really referenced on the wiki at all. They aren't in their own category as an enemy, so I don't know what to call them specifically, but I would just call them stone soldiers because that's what they pretty much are. And other than that, there are a few little neat items scattered around, including Twinkling Titanite and Petrified Dragonbone, and then also Benhart's summon sign. I don't think this is it. No, that's Ashen Knight Boyd. This is it here. And this is part of Benhart's questline. So basically, you just have to help Benhart defeat 3 bosses to fulfill his questline, and you need to get all his dialogue. That about does it. And then you can go and get the achievement, and also get his items. And obviously you don't want to use electricity on your weapon for this fight. So yeah, this is the Looking Glass Knight. Now, for the lore surrounding this guy, it is very scarce, but I'll do what I can in the way of explaining. I'll also go through the most popular theories for the Looking Glass Knight as well. Anyways, for starters, I'll go through the item descriptions for the Looking Glass Knight's armor and weapons. So his armor states, "Those who wish to serve the king, loyal warriors must take the king's passage and face the Looking Glass Knight. Those who fail the test are sacrificed by the merciless specular monstrosity." So what the armor is pretty much stating is that almost every one of Vendrick's Cyan Knights most likely had to face the Looking Glass Knight and defeat it, or at least not die against it, to be sworn in as a Cyan Knight, or a Royal Knight of Drang Lake. The weapons for the Looking Glass Knight then go on to state, "Fearing something wicked, the king fled the castle and never returned, but his warrior, forever true to his command, stands ready to expunge those who would challenge him." So, by the sounds of it, the Looking Glass Knight is the most loyal of Vendrick's soldiers by far, as he is the only one, the sole soldier, that stands in wait to guard against those who would wish harm upon Drang Lake and Drang Lake Castle. And remember that, because we'll be talking about it in a theory in just a second. Next, the Looking Glass Knight's shield, known as the King's Mirror, goes on to state, "The looking glass at the castle is said to have been a passage to another world." There's not really much to explain with this item description, it's pretty plain and simple. Who's to say what that other world is, but my guess is that it leads to the Abyss Chasm, or the Chasm of the Abyss, rather. And that is the reason why all these black phantoms come out of the shield when the Looking Glass Knight summons them. So we'll get back to those things in a second, but I end up having to redo the boss fight here because Benhart dies. And if Benhart dies during one of the bosses for his quest line, you can't defeat the boss lest you fail his quest line. So what you have to do is use a Homeward Bone back to the bonfire and then re-fight the boss and win with him as a summon. So now that we've covered the basics of the Looking Glass Knight's lore, let's get into the theory that interests me the most out of maybe any theory in this game actually. So through the item descriptions of the Looking Glass Knight, we found out that he was one, or rather is, one of King Vendrick's most loyal subjects. And the most loyal subject of King Vendrick was Cyan, but unfortunately Cyan fell in battle against the giants. But this theory goes on to state that Cyan's soul may have been put into this armor, and he now stands guard as the king's most loyal knight ever long and guards the castle. And some of the evidence for this is not only in the item descriptions of the Looking Glass Knight in kind of obscure ways, saying that he is the most loyal knight of King Vendrick, or one of the most, but also the fact that the Cyan Knights use a special attack on their weapon, which is a lightning attack that is very similar to this one that the Looking Glass Knight is using right now. The only two places we ever see this attack used in the game are the Cyan Knights and the Looking Glass Knight, both from Drain Lake Castle. And as I've said, this game does have problems with its continuity, but when it is spot on, it is spot on, and this cannot be a coincidence. So basically the theory goes that when Cyan fell in battle against the giants, King Vendrick took his body and transplanted his soul into the Looking Glass Knight's armor. And because Cyan was the most loyal of all his knights, King Vendrick decided to reciprocate that loyalty by fashioning armor sets of Cyan's armor and handing them out to only his best knights. And also, one little neat thing that you may notice is the name, Cyan. It's spelt with an S, but it is in reference to a color. And what color is the lightning that the Looking Glass Knight uses, and also the Cyan Knights? It is distinctly a light cyan. I mean, it's blue, but cyan is blue. I mean, the color thing could be a bit of a reach, but it still makes sense and that can't be denied. If Cyan is in fact the Looking Glass Knight, then naming him Cyan with a C would have been too much of a giveaway as to who they are. So that's most likely why they gave him an S for the first letter of his name rather than a C, if that connection can be thought of as valid. Whether you think of it as a good theory or not, I think it is quite interesting to think about sometimes, and there are still a lot of things in this game that remain unresolved. And yeah, Cyan's backstory is just one of those things that probably could have used more work. The interesting character that he is right now probably would have been so much better if they just would have put in that extra bit of development time and expanded upon their characters that were already in the game before creating new ones. And I mean, I've said it before, there are just a shit ton of characters in Dark Souls 2 that are almost of no relevance to the game whatsoever. They just have these little short storylines that go pretty much nowhere. And yeah, I mean, I know I've said it, it's like a broken record, but well, that's one of the things I hate the most about Dark Souls 2. But it's not like a hate, it's more like a I wish. It's almost like remorse. I wish they would have spent that bit of extra time just developing this world to a point where you could be happy with the beginnings and endings of every single character in it. And I know that's just wishful thinking, and it's most likely impossible to do for every character in the game, but it's like, if we had a perfect world, that's what I would probably want from this game. Anyway, that's gonna have to be it for today, guys. Once again, I hope you enjoyed this episode, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time.